good afternoon, and welcome to this podcast on the policy and practice of local economic development and regional economic development in South Africa. My name is Andrew Borain. I'm a partnering practitioner based in Cape Town. That means my job is to help different sectors of our society to work better together to try and achieve common objectives and collective impact from government, from business, from civil society and communities, and from academia and research. And I'm joined today by two such practitioners, Sagwata Manika, who's the Senior Advisor for Economic Growth and Investment at SALGA Western Cape. That means the South African Local Government Association. And my second guest is Viwe Siblekwana, who's the Director of Local Economic Development at the National Government Department that deals with local government, namely COGTA, Cooperative Governance. And we've just come out of a very interesting morning's discussion, which was convened by Kagiso Trust, consisting of practitioners and policymakers and some researchers, looking at some of the strengths of local economic development practices. Particularly, we looked in the Karoo region, but also some of the shortcomings. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that in this podcast. So, Gwata, what did you take out of this morning's discussion?
Good afternoon. So, from my side, one of my biggest takeaways was really around how before the entire Karoo region began, before local government became involved in the entire process, right there, how there was this upswelling of civil society actors within that space as well, which was really the catalyst for the Karoo region. Thanks.
Okay. So just now I'd like to come back to ask you a little bit more about what you've been doing in the Karoo for the last 10 or 11 years as SALGA with your partners. But Viwe, what struck you about this morning's discussion? What did you get out of it?
Good afternoon. What I got out of this discussion was really how, as LED practitioners and specialists in the space, we need to have a shared understanding in terms of what is local economic development. The room was comprised of different stakeholders, as you have discussed or indicated. And what I appreciated more was the role that the higher education, which is your universities, can play in terms of ensuring that there is a implementation of local economic development. There was also an appreciation of the role of local government in enabling economic development and economic growth and ensuring that we do not leave anyone behind. So it was an insightful session where practitioners shared on their experience, on the experience that they have on the ground, and how best can we ensure that we move from planning to implementation. I think what I liked more as well was the fact that there was an underscoring of understanding regional economic development versus local economic development and how there can be beneficiation to ensure that everyone in the space or local space gets to benefit.
Having heard the discussion this morning, do you think in our country that we do have a shared understanding of local economic development?
Definitely. I think the stakeholders were very clear in terms of where the challenges are. So in terms of our interventions, we already know where the challenges are. And there was also an appreciation to say how best can we work together. The room was full of people that possess knowledge in economic development. And therefore, if we start working together in a coordinated approach, we'll be able to ensure that we get to the outcomes in terms of implementing local economic development. So there was an appreciation, and stakeholders are more than prepared to assist local government to realize their mandate of ensuring that there is socio-economic development.
So, Gwata, tell us a little bit about the Karoo Regional Economic Development Strategy that has been put in place, led by local government. How did you for example, get people to collaborate across boundaries?
So for that question right now, firstly, right there for the entire Karoo region, this was actually led by local government themselves right now with the support of SALGA and the various government departments as well. So this was not a top-down led approach, but really an actual bottom-up led approach right now, which really led to the development of the Karoo region as well. As a Karoo region, one of our key policy successes has been the development of the Karoo Regional Spatial Development Framework. For us to be able to really get that far, and for us to be able to have the Karoo declared as a region in terms of the Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Act, as well as the gazetting of the Regional Spatial Development Framework. This firstly required council approval from all the municipalities within the region, which is about 40 of them as well. We also required as well provincial letters of support for the establishment of the Karoo region as well. So that on its own did require quite a bit of intergovernmental relations and us cooperating together towards a common goal. And as such, right now we do have that common plan for the entire Karoo region right now, which is our Karoo Regional Spatial Development Framework.
So that's quite an achievement to get upwards of 40 different municipalities and 4 provinces to work together on a common plan. I mean, my experience working with government sometimes is that everyone wants to focus on their own boundaries and not focus on cooperation across those boundaries, what I call the curse of boundaryism. You do everything inside. You take your IDP and your budget up to your boundary, and you don't look further than that. And obviously, the Karoo is a functional economic region which cuts across not just local boundaries, but also provincial boundaries. So how did you actually get that cooperation going?
I think right there, again, it was not something led by national or provinces. It was really led by those municipalities themselves. And really from their side, their key reason for doing this was that, as you mentioned before, it is a functional zone as well. And those municipalities realized that by working together as well, they could really overcome some of their common challenges. Because I'm not sure whether you know this, but the Karoo takes up about 40% of the entire country, and it is also sparsely populated as well. So, and some of those towns are in the decline as well. So the key question was, how exactly do we then revitalize some of those small towns going forward right now? And so again, it was those municipalities themselves driving the process, even in terms of the Karoo Karoo Integrated Management Forum right now. We have got municipalities sitting there as well, municipal councils sitting there, who are really driving the key focus of the entire region.
Okay, but I do notice that in that strategy, you've been able to link local and regional economic development to the national economic cluster and the departments in that cluster who tend to have a lot of the powers, functions, and mandates around the economy, which local authorities often don't have. And then by bringing in the provinces, you're bringing in the social development mandates of education and health and social welfare and things like that, provincial roads. So I think that has taken the concept of local economic development, which in my experience often suffers from being isolated from provincial and national functions, and therefore having not much impact on the ground. You've been able to overcome some of those barriers.
Yeah, I think we have been, but again, this has not been an easy road for us to work. The entire Karoo concept as well began in the 2016 as well, and this has also required continuous engagement and also collaboration between SALGA and our partners, as also of working very closely with the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform on this process, Department of Cooperative Governance, and a few other government departments to really try to make sure that the entire crew is a success as well. We also use our existing partners to bring in some of those other partners which we might not be working as closely with as we would like as well. So that's really where the key power comes from.
Thanks very much on that Karoo story, a very important part of the country, even if it is very scarcely populated. We were reflecting on the discussion and your own practice in your department. What do you think municipalities could do differently in future to strengthen their role in local economic development and in regional economic development?
There is a lot that municipalities can do, and I think the Constitution is clear in terms of their mandate, which is to ensure that there is effective delivery in terms of basic services, as well as drive socio-economic development in their regions. It is very clear that municipalities need to understand that economic development has to be the backbone in their localities so that they are able to generate long-term revenue to support the provision of basic services. And therefore, local economic development should not just be isolated in a unit in a municipality. Everyone in the municipality needs to understand the role they play in terms of ensuring that there is service delivery to enable local economic development. So, for example, there are different business units in the municipalities that are responsible for different things. Your roles, your technical services, your planning department, because when an investor comes into a space, they go into a unit in a municipality and they need to be assisted so that they are able to come and invest, and therefore the municipality will be able to generate long-term revenue. And in that instance, there will be economic activity in those regions, and they will help in terms of ensuring that as an outcome, there is reduced unemployment as well as poverty and inequality in those spaces. So everyone in the municipality has got a role to play. It is not just the economic development division that has got a role to play. So I think that was clear in terms of the discussions that we had this morning. And also to say, how best can municipalities ensure that we understand that economic development is not just about planning. We have to move beyond planning and go into implementation, but also that plan, the economic development plan, needs to ensure that it integrates all the other strategic plans of the municipality. So there was that appreciation this morning to say we need to ensure that it is not just about compliance. You have an economic development plan or strategy in place, but how best are you ensuring that you are implementing other strategic plans in the municipality as well? So it was very clear as well that the capacity is very important in terms of ensuring that we are able as municipalities to ensure that when investors come into our spaces, we are able to process whatever requests that they have. So capacity is very important. Another thing that came out this morning as well, more than capacity, was to say local economic development, we need to ensure that in terms of stakeholders in the area, we improve the participation of other stakeholders, whether it will be business or the public at large. Public participation is very important to ensure that our plans have got a buy-in from the communities. So all of society approach is very important in discharging the mandate of economic development. So it was to stress or underscore the fact that economic development is not just focusing in a specific unit, it must be everybody's business in the municipality. That was very clear.
And I guess flowing from that, the capacity that LED practitioners need is really to be able to influence their own colleagues who are running the big five services: water, sanitation, energy, roads, waste. Because I think everyone agreed in the room this morning, if those things aren't functioning well, you can't have economic development. no one is going to invest in your area if you can't get the basics right. So, you need to not just have the capacity to run some economic projects in the community, because that tends to be where some LED units have focused and prioritized, but you've got to be able to influence beyond your mandate the other parts of the organization.
Definitely. That came out a lot to say, the infrastructure in the municipality has got an impact in terms of investment, and that drives economic development. So it is very important that the different business units in the municipalities, they understand their role. But over and above that, there were also issues around governance that are important for economic development. Investors are looking for stability. Investors are looking for good governance, financial management, and everything else. So municipalities have got a big role in ensuring that the environment is conducive for investors to come into the space, and governance was also underscored as a major factor in driving economic development.
So, in your experience in the Karoo, amongst the municipalities, how have they been able to form partnerships with the community sector, with the business sector?
I think one of the key ways which we as Salga have supported that is really through our crew conferences as well. So once a year we always meet within a different province, different town in the crew, and our crew conferences bring in about 200 people into that to really discuss the progress of the crew as well. During our conference last year in the Cradock as well, because one of their annual festivals wasn't really operating anymore. When Salga came in with this conference, bringing all those people, we managed to then contribute about 2 million rand to the local businesses in that town as well. So just by those conferences themselves, that's quite a big bonus to that community as well. So some of the other ways in which we try to then get local government to also speak to the businesses is really around us saying to them what are those actual products within the crew which you'd like to showcase to the rest of the province, to the rest of the country as well. And we are using some of those provincial investment summits as well to really try to then showcase some of the goods and services which are coming out of the Karoo.
Okay. And what was the response of the business community and the residential community more broadly to this initiative led by local government?
I think they were quite supportive as well, because businesses really see the need for much greater tourism numbers in their areas, because when you are then promoting tourism, for example, everybody benefits. The businesses benefit, and the local governments benefit as well, and even the community members do benefit because they're able to showcase their town as well. And when there are lots of people coming in, even the local government tends to also do things which they might not necessarily have been doing in the past. So making sure that those actual street lights are on, cleaning up the trash, just to really make the town really look good for those visitors as well.
So it's again going back to getting the basics right.
Yes.
How have you communicated the benefit of what local government is putting on the table for the Karoo region to the business community and to residential communities?
So in terms of this question right now, I think that an example of when tourists come to the area as well, that is where all the multiple benefits are really felt by everybody there, whether it's the businesses to the local municipality to the people staying in that town as well, because businesses are really quite supportive of helping the municipality to look more attractive, because that will then attract far more tourists. Even the local community members are quite happy, because they have found that with such cases, the municipality also starts doing some of the basic things. So making sure that their street lights are on, making sure that the trash is picked up on time, all those small things as well.
So it seems that your practice is reinforcing some of the research that was presented to us earlier today by Dr. or Professor Daniel Meyer from the University of Johannesburg, who's been investigating and researching local economic development in South Africa for the past 25 years. And he gave us an example which he drew from 200 different best practices around the world, which he has synthesized into some lessons for us. And the first one was the degree of decentralized decision making. In other words, if it's led locally, it tends to work better than if it's led nationally or provincially. But secondly, the ability to improve local and regional attractiveness. That's what you said. Because if you come into an area, whether you're a tourist or a visitor or a local resident or a potential investor, and the place doesn't seem to be working, and if it doesn't look like it's working and someone cares for it in the community, in the municipality, in government, then you drive on. Then you don't stop. Then you don't want to be there. And that undermines any local economic development strategy. So I thought some of the lessons that he gave us from global best practice were very helpful. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yes, they were. They were very helpful, and also just to understand, or the role of political champions in ensuring that there is that sustainable economic development. So I think the lessons that he shared this morning were very crucial for us to take forward in ensuring that there is that participation, public participation, was underscored as well. The bottom-up approach ensures that there is sustainability in terms of programs and also projects in a municipal space.
I also found his examples that he gave us of, for example, measuring inclusive growth at the local level, and some surprising results came out of that. It wasn't some of the top cities that one would expect. And then also the 12 factors for creating an enabling environment. I found that was very helpful, because often we come up with a wish list of what we want to do at the local level. And because we don't really attach it to the enabling factors that result in economic growth and development and investment, our strategies go nowhere. As you say, sometimes they're no more than a compliance-driven tick box effect. So what can we learn about building a more enabling environment for local economic development?
So what I learned this morning was that the academia has got tools for us to measure the work that we are doing already in their spaces. And together we can, work and enhance the tools that are there. I think it was very interesting when Prof. Meyer was presenting on the indicators for inclusive cities. And there was a comment to say, probably in the research that they are doing as a university, they also have to go down and look into a human settlement level. So there is insights, from all of us in the room to ensure that we strengthen the tools that are there. So for us to be able to measure the work that we are doing. So it was very interesting indeed. And as government, we are very interested in terms of ensuring that we unpack what is this enabling environment, so that where there are challenges, we are able to have or develop collectively solutions that are going to help us to deliver on this mandate of inclusive economic development. So academia has got tools to assist us as government, as well as local government practitioners, to take the work that we are doing forward. And also, when you measure your success or your challenges, you are able to improve. So I think those indexes that, the tools that Prof. Meyer was presenting this morning are very important for us, as stakeholders in this sector, to be able to measure our success so that we can improve, because the challenges will be clear, the ratings won't lie, and therefore we would know what we are working towards once we understand where are we in terms of development. So I thought his presentation was very insightful.
Okay. So one of the conclusions of the meeting this morning is that we need to carry on learning from each other, that no one sector has the answers, And I think everyone was pleasantly surprised at all the gathering of the experience, some from the top-down authorizing environment, some from the bottom-up mobilizing environment, some from within government, some from people working outside of government, in the NGO sector, in the community sector, in the business sector. By pooling that knowledge, you can achieve a lot more than just working on your own. So as COGTA, are you keen and interested in continuing that knowledge sharing and learning process with the other sectors and stakeholders?
Yes, we are very keen, right? We are a Department of Cooperative Governance, and we have a responsibility to coordinate, stakeholders around the same outcome. So we are very keen to collaborate with the stakeholders that were in the room and those that were not in the room. We do understand and appreciate the role of learning networks to ensure that, the work of the LED practitioners or local government is strengthened. As you have mentioned, there was a wealth of experience in the room, and would want to tap into that wealth. And I think we also appreciate when the private sector or civil society says or raise their hand and say, we are here. We can assist in terms of coordinating this work because we share the same goal of wanting to see development. And therefore, we will be taking up this opportunity to ensure that we coordinate the work together and we bring the lessons to the local government, in terms of municipalities now. So we are very keen to collaborate with the whole of society, including academia, because also Prof. Mayor was saying they are available to assist in this work because they've got a wealth of experience. They've researched, they know where the problems are, they know where the solutions lie, and they know how we can tap into each other's experience to ensure that we deliver on this big mandate of economic development. So we welcome the collaborative efforts and will ensure that together with our stakeholder, which is the South African Local Government Association, we open up the channels for a learning network.
And so, Gwata, I guess the same could be said from Salga's side, that you would welcome the collaboration around knowledge sharing and learning on LED and RED and things like that.
Absolutely, as well. And again, I think there are several existing platforms where we are doing that. As I've mentioned the crew quite a lot, but I think our crew conferences we also use those as an actual platform whereby people do share lessons learned around what's really working within their space in terms of local economic development, in terms of investments coming in and their challenges as well, and all the other crew towns and other crew municipalities are learning from each other. And I agree with what Viva was saying around us having those learning platforms which are filled with lots of different voices. So not just government coming in, because otherwise what you'll find is that government speaks to each other. You'll need the private sector and civil society and the academia as well, so that we can really try and solve some of these issues.
Okay. But Vivi, I also know that you've been trying to mobilize within government a sort of LED forum or network to make sure that other departments are brought into the conversations. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. What happens is that we do realize that local economic development is everybody's business. Government on its own will not be able to deliver on this mandate. So what we have been able to do was to kind of identify stakeholders that are important. We started, of course, at a national level, where we were targeting, government departments in the economic cluster, as well as, collaborating with provincial local economic development champions. Of course, it was government as well as South African Local Government Association at this point. However, we do take guidance to say probably we need to broaden that space to ensure that, it captures everyone's voice, from the ground. But we also have got intention to build the provincial structures as well around local economic development, the governance structures stakeholders at the provincial level to ensure that then whatever is discussed at a national level has got a way of finding itself in the provinces as well as in the local space. Of course, at the provincial level, there is an opportunity to ensure that we get the ideas from the bottom up. So we are working around, the governance or enhancing the governance structures that we already have. But that is where we are at this point.
So as a partnering practitioner, my experience has been, with the ultimate goal is to organize a practical whole of society approach, to bring in the best from all the sectors in government and outside of government and get everyone on the same page. In other words, shared vision for a common agenda leading to joint action, not just talking about it, but actually going to do it together. What I've found, and just going back to what you're doing within government, that often a whole of society effort is not possible if government is not on the same page in government. In other words, if the left hand of government doesn't know what the right hand is doing, it's very hard for business to then partner with government, or for communities. They just get very frustrated. So I think your work in pulling together a whole of government approach on, local and regional economic development and harnessing the power of the national economic cluster departments and the social development cluster and things like that, and to get them to work better with their municipal counterparts and society, I think will go a long way to strengthening the practice of LED in the country.
Definitely, and that platform has actually afforded us an opportunity to understand what is it that everyone else is doing, because one of the things that we have come to understand was that there is resource wastage when you don't know what the other counterparty is doing, because now you tend to duplicate work that they are doing in terms of leveraging on the resources and to raise, the impact in terms of whatever intervention. So that platform has actually opened up doors for these key economic stakeholders to engage, and also start to learn from each other as well, because there are provinces and municipalities that are doing well in terms of economic development. So it helps a lot in terms of ensuring that the capacity is built, people to understand what their other counterparts are doing, and for better coordination, really, because we are trying to address the issue of silo planning, implementation, and budgeting as well, because we understand that resources are scarce, and therefore we need to collaborate for a better impact.
It does become important to address sometimes the negative institutional culture in the public sector, which is based on mandatism and hierarchies and silos. It says, this is my territory, don't come and touch me on my mandate. And I think one has to challenge or encourage more cooperative and collaborative attitudes and behaviors at a leadership level, because otherwise people can get very protective of their areas in government.
Yes.
And that doesn't help us.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think that platform has really shown us that, if we're working together, there is much that we can do. And also, it influences our plans going forward. And I think the ability to be able to understand what the other key stakeholders are doing and how best can we leverage on their work and leverage on the resources as well, is something that is welcomed in that platform. So indeed, people understand that this is a big mandate. There is no single institution that can be able to drive economic development alone. And also through that platform, we have got to appreciate the role of partnerships in enhancing the work of economic development. So we are seeing results already, and based on what was discussed in the room as well, the CSIR in partnership with some of the private stakeholders, they are doing work around economic development, and it is through that forum that we get to understand the work that is being done and how best can we improve our work, because that platform also assists us in terms of ensuring that lessons learned are shared.
Okay, so this is a good time to talk about the review of the local government white paper, which was written in 1998, and it's being led by COGTA with National Treasury and the Presidency and other departments with SALGA. looking at some of the shortcomings of our local government system and seeing how it can be changed in the future, where we need to change it. From Salga's point of view, what would you like to see in a reformed local government system with regard to the practice of economic development?
In terms of that, I think there are two things from our side. One is a funding model for local government right now. Local government does not receive its fair share of the equitable share as well, and then therefore local government is therefore struggling with the very basics, like providing your basic services. So that for me really is something which needs to change as well. Then secondly as well, which was also discussed during our morning's discussion, is the fact that economic planning is really long term. It might be 10 or 20 years. However, our current political cycle is only 5 years, and so those short term political requirements sometimes outweigh those long term plans as well. So that might be nice to see that shift somehow.
So yeah, the practice of short termism aligned to a political cycle can undermine longer-term socioeconomic development strategies, which need to be consistently implemented over a long period. They cannot be chopping and changing every time you get a new mayor or a new council. What would you like to see in the reformed white paper on LED?
We are very excited to get this opportunity as LED practitioners to contribute to the review of the white paper. As you might be aware, that there were a number of assumptions that were made in 1998, and looking at the time, some of those assumptions are no longer relevant in this age. So, for example, there were issues that were not probably taken into consideration, like climate change now, scenario setting, because the assumption was that municipalities will generate revenue, as my colleague here was saying, and now we see that there are municipalities that are struggling to generate revenue, and how best then can we ensure that we assist those municipalities while we are not, therefore we are not leaving anyone behind. So we are very excited about that opportunity to now say, given the current situation, how best can we support local government, and how best can we ensure that we underscore the importance of economic development, in driving sustainable, cities and towns. So we are very excited about that opportunity to be able then to underscore the role of economic development to ensure that we do not leave anyone behind.
I'm glad you made reference to, in a sense, new fields of governance that weren't even in our minds when we wrote the white paper back in the late 1990s. And you mentioned sort of climate response governance and environmental governance. The one I would add to that is digital governance. When we wrote our constitution in this country back in 1996, cell phones were 4 years old, and they certainly weren't smart. And now we've seen the massive rise of digital technology, and has a profound impact on how we communicate, how we gather knowledge, how we share knowledge, how we analyze data, how we collect data, and things like that. And so it's been suggested in the new white paper that we make digital governance, or the provision of digital services, instead of having the big 5 basic services, we need the big 6, because if communities are better connected, they can learn, they can participate, they can vote, they can be educated, even in the sort of wilds of the Karoo region, in the small settlements there. And so digital connection and digital governance, I think, is rising as almost as important as the big 5 basic services in a municipality. So maybe this is a good time to end the conversation. And really to thank both of you for your contribution that you're making to the field of LED, and for your participation in this podcast. And I hope that our listeners have drawn some lessons and some inspiration from it. I'm sure they have. So thank you very much.
Thank you.